Chess can be brutal, unforgiving, and brutal. You can dominate the entire game, brilliancies across the board, you're controlling the entire game, and then you blunder it on the final move, and that's all it takes to lose. This happens to all of us, it certainly happened to me, and it is admittedly more common at the lower club level, but it does not stay there, and even at the brightest of stages, you see this exact phenomenon occur. And what stage is more bright than the US Chess Championship? You have the best players in the country fighting for first place, and just a couple of days ago in round 2, this exact thing happened. It was Leinier Domínguez playing with the white pieces faced off against Sam Shankland with the black pieces. Jump straight into the game. I think the story behind this game is obviously fascinating and dramatic, but I think the chess itself also has lots of instructional value. Let's go. So the game opened with a Najdorf. What'd you expect? This is obviously what everybody plays. And black played a very strong opening theoretical line. Sam Shankland is known for his openings. He has many opening chessable courses, so he's definitely well prepared. And it shows because black very much got a dominant position. You can see this breakthrough in the center allows black to activate all of their pieces. And following the sequence of trades in the resulting position, although material is fairly equal, it is black who has the initiative largely due to the open file that this rook has, the active queen sitting on g6, and while these bishops look better than their counterparts, that's only temporary. These bishops are very quick to latch on to a strong square, either on the king side or on the queen side. Now, after rook takes the rook here on c1, there becomes an important decision here for white to make. So the right way to go here is queen takes c1. Now the idea is after queen f5, which is the key move for black, you want to play for g5, you want to start pushing your pawns and making progress with your open rook on the king side, but white is just in time to play bishop c7 and trade off the pair of bishops, and if you get rid of more pieces, then black's chances to really convert and kind of do anything special with their extra initiative begins to dissipate. Rook takes c1 was played in the game, and this was a severe mistake by Domínguez, because after queen f5, the same bishop c7 is no longer possible in view of bishop to g5. The rook and queen are now on the same diagonal, and those small nuances actually play a significant role, especially when there's two bishops on the board. So many tactical possibilities. So after rook takes c1, queen to f5 was indeed played, and you're no longer able to trade the bishops. And again, that's a key way, a key avenue for white to try to mitigate some of the pressure and then try to transform into an equal endgame. So without bishop c7, what do you do? The bishop is obviously under some pressure. There's ideas of g5 coming in the future with tempo, so bishop e3 was played, also trying to clog down the rook's sight over the e-file. It seems very strong, but here it comes g5, and the pressure begins to mount. You're obviously unable to take in view of bishop takes g5. Black is well guarding that square, and the idea simply of g4 is on the horizon, and if you can start to push these pawns down the board, this king is going to feel very, very weak. So black is building their initiative, and they're doing so very well. Sam Shankland begins definitely to have a strategically strong position, and it becomes a tactically strong position right here. Queen can begin to infiltrate. So you saw here after g4 a trade of the bishops, and didn't I just say that trading bishops kind of brings the game closer to equality? Well, there's a key difference in the two positions. In one of the trades, this queen was stuck at bay at f5. In this other trade, now the f-file is open, and because the rook is capturing back, the queen begins to infiltrate, and this becomes deadly. Just look at the pressure beginning to mount. The rook could come to the first rank. Sam Shankland brings it instead to the second rank. There's now this idea, of course, of taking on g2. The queen is hit, and therefore the queen has to come to d5 to defend both threats. Black is definitely in the driver's seat, but you have to convert, because the truth is, while you do have some good pressure, for the moment everything is held together, and this pawn here is not something we should forget about. If the pawn simply makes two small steps forward, it becomes a full new queen. So Sam Shankland does need to play with some level of precision, but if you turn on the engine, the engine says rather, that black is fully winning after bishop h4. And that shouldn't be so surprising. I mean, the bishop is obviously threatening to come to f2. There's, by the way, even a more severe threat, which is queen takes g1. That's a beautiful checkmate. And so white has to respond to these threats. And the way that Domínguez does so is by playing rook c8 check, king to g7, and then queen to d4 check. Okay, bishop comes back to f6, so you've kind of handled the pressure with the bishop by forcing it backwards, but it's still unclear how you defend some of the other threats. Now, what are those other threats? Well, after queen d5, rook e1 comes, you're hitting the bishop. Okay, queen to c5 is forced to defend the bishop, and now h4, and simply h3 is on the horizon, and that becomes now a deadly threat. So Sam is doing a wonderful job of introducing threat piece by piece, bringing the bishop in. Now the rook comes to the first rank. Now the pawns begin to push. And it's very difficult for white to hold everything together. Again, the engine already says that they are lost. But that's not the end of the story, especially with the queen and a rook. There's always shenanigans that could go down. And that's exactly what happens here. So let's take a look. The game continued in this position with d7. This is white's only source of counterplay. The pawn obviously wants to promote, but there's something even more specific than that. And after h3, Domínguez reveals that the idea is, of course, not to promote. That would get brutally checkmated with the pawn on g2. Instead, it's to go queen to f8 check. The queen and rook begin to infiltrate. Now, as black, you're thinking, okay, there's a queen, there's a rook, but I surely have enough ways to kind of hold everything together and slowly evade the checks and then be able to deliver my own check, which becomes a little bit more deadly than the ones that white are doing. But the truth is that white's checks are actually a little bit more scary than they seem. Again, black is winning here, but they have to be a bit precise, and Sam Shankland slowly begins to let the position slip right around here. So queen to g8 check. Okay, no problem. The king simply slides. Okay, but now queen to f8 check. What do you do? Okay, bishop to g7, of course, was the idea, but now the rook comes. Okay, the rook comes to c6 check. You have to find a way to defend. And here, ladies and gentlemen, was the brutal moment that I foreshadowed in the beginning of the video. Black has been totally dominating, and they will go on to win the game should they find the move f6. f6 here, and white can resign. There are no more checks. You cannot promote because the pressure, both against the bishop and against g2, is overwhelming. The best that you can do here as white is to take on f6, but this is wholly unimpressive thanks to queen takes f6, and you're simply down an enormous amount of material. If you take the queen, then the bishop importantly guards over the promotion square, and if you promote to another queen, here things get a little bit tricky, but simply queen takes f8. Now, this is maybe what Sam saw, and he actually got a little bit dissuaded from going into this line, thanks to the fact that this queen seemingly can deliver a check on either the h4 or the e2 squares. In both cases, they pick up the rook, and now material is in fact equal. But here's the thing, guys. H takes g2, and queen to f3 is checkmate. An incredible line, and you did kind of need to see that because, again, material is equal. So maybe Sam missed this, which is why he didn't play for f6. But the move that Sam made was far worse. He moved the king to h7. Now, at first glance, this seems incredible. There's no more checks. The queen's attacked. If you simply move the queen away, then there's going to be 1 or 2 or 3 million different checkmates that will end the game. So what do you do? Well, here is what Sam missed. The incredible queen to g8, seemingly out of nowhere, sacrificing a full queen, not even for a pawn. And you can see the heartbreak in the moment when you see the live footage. Sam Shankland just blundered the entire game away. He had a crushing position, and he gave it all away in one move. And what a brilliant find from Domínguez. The point, everyone, is that after you take the queen on g8, white's going to promote to another queen. Okay, what does this achieve? We simply lost a queen, but then we got one back. What's the point? The point is that the queen sitting on e8 is far, far better than the queen on f8. And now there is, in fact, perpetual check with queen to h4 and queen all the way back to e8. There is no way to stop this, because if you intercept with the bishop, then that will actually end quite terribly for you. Remember, white has a queen and a rook. So the game ended peacefully in a draw, but this was not a peaceful game at all. I mean, black had obviously the advantage objectively and practically, and just look at the position, right? Look at the queen infiltrating and then the rook infiltrating. How can you possibly defend from this? And the truth is, white shouldn't have been able to defend, but it was a one-move blunder, a slip in the final moments after hours of playing perfectly that cost Shankland the game. And this, to conclude what we began with, this is why chess is a brutal, brutal game.